Hey everyone, so we're going to dive into Bitcoin today and take a look at the two most likely scenarios that I see playing out from here, and really how you can position yourself to make profit in this market, both if we go up and we go down in the market. So if that sounds good to you, please go ahead and like the video. Let me know down below as well with where you think price is going. Drop me a comment down below in the comment section below, and of course subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon as well so that you can stay up to date with all my recent videos. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so there's two scenarios that I want to get out the way which I think are very unlikely from here. So the first one is I don't think that we're going to challenge new all-time highs anytime soon. I've told you that I think that we're in a bear market, so I don't think that 60,000 this year, those sort of price targets are going to be viable, okay? Before we start, really consolidating towards the bottom of the market. However, I will also say that I don't think that we are going to go straight down from here. And if we just drop this down to the daily chart, I think most of the damage from this bear flag breakdown has been done. So I don't think that the magnitude of sell-off that we've seen in the last week or two is going to happen again from this sort of consolidation. So I don't think that we roll straight down to something like 20k and make another 30% drop. I think historically speaking, it doesn't show history doesn't show that Bitcoin would basically drop that violently, and considering with all the news of the Federal Reserve and Luna and the confidence that that's shaken out a lot of the altcoins and Bitcoin prices shake out to the downside, I don't think that that's likely. So now, whilst I do think that maybe later on in the year we are obviously going to challenge some of these lows over here, that 25k level, and we can definitely break down a little bit lower, I don't think that that's going to happen from here. But the most likely scenario that I see from here, okay, if we drop this down to the 4-hour chart, is I do think that we are still in a consolidation phase, and I said that we're still likely to maybe end up going back to the upside, and I think that from here we are in some kind of like triangle consolidation phase, and I think that this is likely to continue, and I do think that we can challenge these lows in the next few weeks, which is going to be that 27,000 area, and some of these lower regions over here. But I am looking for signs of weakness in that selling and in that downside action, and you can see that the volume that we got in the sell-off when we had the hysteria about Luna and when Bitcoin hit 25k, you can see that the volume here was pretty high. And if we see some sort of sell-off down here and it's sort of fairly gradual and grinding and the volume is sort of diminishing as well, I'm not assuming that we're going to take out some of these lows. And if we did in the next few weeks take out the 25k low, I think that would be a little bit too soon to go straight down into lower targets, and I would expect it to be some sort of low volume sell-off and again take out liquidity from here and move to the upside. But I don't think that's the most likely scenario to happen. I think that either we're going to come down here, okay, and then start to again reaccumulate and basically maybe have a low volume sell-off from this triangle in the same way that we did last summer and in May. What you can see is that when we had this sell-off over here, you can see that we basically had, just take the volume off the chart, you can see that we basically have these sort of triangle formations over here, and it looks like that's the low, but we come down, break down, but the volume is quite low, like you can see over here, okay, and you can see how this corresponds. So these are similar patterns that I'm looking out for, and maybe again just reaccumulate and break up to the upside. And if we do break lower, then again it's going to be fairly low volume sell-off followed by heavy buying volume over here. So these are the sort of patterns that I'm looking at, and it's not just, May 2021 that we've seen this. We've seen similar sort of patterns when we mark out sort of key lows. So when we got the COVID 2020 crash, you can see similar patterns play out as well, where we had these sort of marked out bottoms over here where the highest volume selling actually ended up occurring, and then we break down, but the volume is quite weak. Everyone thinks that we're going lower, but actually we end up sending it back to the upside for either reaccumulation before a next leg higher, or at least some sort of retest of upper price targets before we start moving lower. So that's basically what I'm looking out for, and I won't go too far into this, but something similar as well back in the last bear market where we had quite a few triangle breakdown formations at these key pivotal lows, okay, and then we break down and then basically move back up. So I'm looking for something similar like that on Bitcoin at the moment. So That's the first scenario, but either way, I see both of these scenarios ending up testing some of these 37k regions, or maybe even 40k potentially, okay? But like I said, we either move down here and then move up, or the other scenario that I'm looking out for is basically from this area, we just start to challenge and grind some of these higher targets. And I think that the highest Bitcoin can go in the next few months or during the summer for me is probably going to be anywhere as low as 33,000 and 37,000 as well. And the highest that I think it can go is that we might be able to tap into somewhere in that very, very low 40k region. But ultimately, I think that we will create a lower high if we do move any higher than 40k. If we move any higher than 40k, the highest target that I could see us getting to is just below 48k, and then again that would still make us over here, you can see, create lower highs, and essentially maybe one more rollover to the downside. But I don't think that this is going to be just the bottom, in my opinion. Okay, so those are the two most likely scenarios that I'm seeing, is basically some sort of low volume grinding consolidation action down to the downside, and maybe that results in challenging those 37, mid 30 or 40k areas, or we just go there straight from now and then maybe start to roll over from there. So that's pretty much what I'm looking out for on Bitcoin. Another reason I'm looking for Bitcoin not to drop too far too quick from these price levels is that we do typically tend to frustrate and grind when we make these lower consolidation patterns towards bottoms, and you can see that we're basically going to be in 7 to 8 weeks of red weekly candles in a row, which is a historical first for Bitcoin. So I would be very wary of getting too bearish on Bitcoin when prices are starting to get fairly suppressed. Another indicator that we've spoken about on this channel before is that when we typically move somewhere between 40 to 50% below the 200-day moving average, we typically expect some sort of bounces or some sort of reversion to the mean from these prices. So that's another reason why I'm not expecting us to completely tank down. And although we can, like I said, tap into some of those lower levels, this is not a time for you to be selling. As we're about halfway through the video, if you're getting some value from this video and you are enjoying it, drop me a comment below, please do, about where you think Bitcoin is going. What are you holding? What are your plans for this bear market cycle for accumulation? And obviously don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon if you haven't already. So without further ado, let's crack on. So let me show you how I'm going to be playing this scenario so that I can profit from this to the upside and to the downside, and hopefully you can learn a few things from this as well. So if you're like me and you see Bitcoin going to 200k, okay, how are you going to profit if we move lower or if we move higher? Where do you buy? So my last buy personally was about $27,200. okay, that was enough to me to take a stab into my spot position. I am expecting lower prices, but what I would be doing is I'm not buying anywhere above 30k, and once we retest some of these regions, okay, and if we take out some of these lows pretty quickly at 25k, okay, I'm looking to add into my spot position here in those mid to low $20,000. So if we do move down, great, I'll be looking to potentially take advantage of some cheap Bitcoin if we get a move down pretty quickly, although I'm not expecting that. But if we do move to the upside, okay, then I'm not going to be selling anything above 30 to low 30Ks. But if we start to reach some of these 37K regions, I would probably hedge some of my positions into a potential short or cash position, and then wait to reaccumulate down into these lower regions, because that's what I see as the most likely scenario. But either way, I am going to be still holding some Bitcoin, whether we move to the upside or to the downside. It just depends on whether I put some of my positions into cash in those upper regions if we move there first, which is about that 37 to 40K region. And if we move any lower down here, anywhere below $24,000, I will be aggressively buying all the way down to about $14,000 should we get there as a worst case scenario. So this is the way that I'm looking at profiting from this entire region over here. And then, like I said, if you see prices going to 200k, then you should be positioned that way to take advantage of that move. Quick look at some of the other long-term macro indicators to let you know that this is not a selling region, in my opinion. Like I said, I think most of the selling has been done, and anywhere under 30k is going to be a good buy zone for Bitcoin for the long term is that if we have a look at the 200-week moving average, which we've covered quite a few times before, you can see that we are in this lower region over here. And although we can tend to loiter around, you can see in previous bear markets for quite a while under the 2-year MA multiplier. And you can get all of these into look into bitcoin.com. Okay, some of these indicators are really, really useful. You can see that we're towards the lower end of this range. So anywhere towards the bottom of these indicators is going to be a good time to buy. You can see the 200-week moving average heat map. You can see that we haven't quite hit that, which is going to be somewhere around that 24 K level, and I think these are weekly closes, so we can move below these on wicks, but you can see that typically those bottoms, although they don't have to, have occurred somewhere across this bottom line, which is 200-week moving average. Okay, heat map. And then you can see as well that we're getting close to there. So that's why we want to be, well positioned into the market for the long term. And again, have a look at the Puel multiple. You can have a look at these indicators, like I said, and see what they are for yourself. But again, anywhere towards this green box, which we're not quite there yet, has proved to be a really good buying area. And I imagine that this green box is going to coincide with those lower $20,000 regions on Bitcoin. So that's why I'm keeping an eye on all of these. But like I said, we're getting close. We're getting closer to the bear market bottom, and I still think that we've got a little ways to go, frustrate a few more people, and I know a few people don't like to look at the stock to flow model. I think it still has its place and has its value, because you can see as well that if we have a look at on the right hand side the days until the halving, which is basically about 800 days until the next Bitcoin halving, okay, you can see that whenever we're in this sort of turquoise green area, okay, we still tend to make another leg down in the bear market and make another low. So that's where we currently are in the minute, which was why I think that we'll probably end up making a low towards the end of the year when we get to about 300-400 days out from the Bitcoin halving. Okay, and then basically when we get to around that price, I imagine that's where we'll see our our end of cycle bear market bottom. But again, you can see just down here on this chart, okay, when we get to a variance of anywhere of about 0.5 or 0.1, somewhere in that region, we are getting closer to the bottom. So a lot of the macro indicators are telling us that we are moving towards the bottom, and we're just finalizing in the next, in my opinion, 6 months or so, bear market cycle bottom for Bitcoin. Few other indicators to keep in mind, okay, is I'm looking at altcoins and Ethereum in particular. So if I start to see some more weaknesses in Ethereum, and Ethereum starts to make lower lows, but Bitcoin does not, in the same way that I drew out here last time I had a look at Ethereum, okay, that's going to give me a little bit more confidence that we're moving towards the end of the bear market cycle, okay, so that's going to give me another indication over here. So I want to see more weakness in altcoins and more strength in Bitcoin, which we've spoken about the Bitcoin dominance to start going above 48%. I imagine if Ethereum does drop below, that is going to coincide with Bitcoin breaking above that 48% level, and you can see that we are impulsively moving up, and that's a thing that we've basically stayed pretty strong in our sentiment about. And another thing is the DXY. Now, I am seeing some potential levels in the DXY that can be confluent with Bitcoin going into its, maybe correcting a little bit more to the upside and challenging some of those mid 30K levels, is that if we see in the short term the DXY challenge some of these order blocks over here at about $100 and another order block here at about that $98, because the DXY has been moving pretty parabolically, if we start to see this happening and correct on the DXY, okay, and Bitcoin hasn't made its move yet, okay, I'll be waiting to see if Bitcoin can basically move into the upper 30K, mid 30K regions if the DXY can correct down to some of these levels. And then potentially again, I'm looking at that about that $110 level. If the DXY does not stop and it continues moving to the upside like this, I would imagine that this level would coincide with some of those lower 20K levels, okay? So these are the two things that I'm looking out for as well. So if we start to see some support here on the DXY at about $198 if we move down here, okay? That might be a similar kind of move where we see Bitcoin go to something like 37K and then make another drop down to those 27, 25, lower $20,000 regions if the DXY seems to get some support and then move higher from there, okay? And then hopefully, well, not hopefully, or most likely, I would expect the altcoins to basically suffer harder than Bitcoin if Bitcoin moves up and then drops back down. That's typically how bear markets work. It really tends to shake out some of the lower market cap coins, and you know, some of the altcoins are, you know, maybe in the top 100 or top 50 are probably going to, you know, basically fade out into existence. And I expect this process to continue, this grinding process to continue for the remainder of the year. And if we just take a look at the S&P as well, is that we are seeing continued weakness in the S&P 500. You can see that we're basically challenging and really making lower lows on the S&P, and some of the main levels that I'm looking out for over here is going to be that 36,000 area. So if we can maybe tap into this area pretty soon on the S&P and we see some kind of bounce, maybe that is also an area that we can look for Bitcoin to see some sort of correlation and get its bounce from those areas. So that's essentially how I am looking at the market at the moment. So if you got some value from that video and you want to see more of these kind of videos, go ahead and subscribe to the channel below. Okay, I hope I've been keeping you on the right side of the market and you've been getting some value. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until the next video, I will catch you next time.